So at this time, I'd like to welcome Ms. Jackie Levine to give our presentation on curriculum and instruction.
That is a hard act to follow, but I feel really good. Oh, wrong button. Sorry about that. I feel really good following such a prime example of the focus on curriculum and instruction here at Putnam Valley. So good evening, everyone. Dr. Left, members of the board, and members of our Putnam Valley Central School District community. It's a delight and a privilege to be here to talk about the curriculum and instruction work of our school district. And I'm going to try to navigate multiple technologies here while I present our 2022-2023 budget. My colleagues know I really like to start every presentation grounding everyone in the mission, vision, and goals of our school district. This is the lens through which we look at everything and make every decision here in Putnam Valley. These are our agreements, our commitments to what we do here and the type of student we hope to create and send on their way into the world. Our goals reflect, learn, and thrive, as decided upon by Dr. Luft and our Board of Education earlier this year, will be the lens through which we go through my presentation this evening, talking about the different ways we are reflecting on what we've done, learning, growing, and of course, thriving. And then this is the biggest lens of all to look at everything we do here at Putnam Valley. The child first and foremost. We center this in everything we do. We are building a foundation for their future, giving each child what they need to be successful and hit the ground learning. So Dr. Luft asked me to put together a little slide, and I don't expect anyone to be able to read this tonight. It's very small print, but he did ask me to list some of my roles and responsibilities because technically I'm a department of one. But this work cannot be done in isolation, and I am so grateful for the partnership of wonderful leaders like Dr. Seppi and Mr. Mello and all of our building leaders and all of our teachers to be able to do the work that we do here in Putnam Valley. If I had to boil this list down to 3 key roles, I would say that that is leading, learning, and communicating. I lead professional learning and initiatives and curriculum discussion. I spend a great deal of time making sure our communications are put together well for our leaders, our teachers, our community. But this year in particular, because it's my first year, I have spent a lot of time learning about our school, about our curriculum, about our students, our faculty, and it's been an amazing experience. There is nothing better than going from one of our IB English classes as they're working on their assessments to our kindergarten class and reading to Mrs. Verdi's kindergartners. That is the magic of school, and what makes me so proud to be here in Putnam Valley is the level of commitment of all of the faculty, staff, and leadership in this school district. So we're going to spend a little bit of time reflecting. There's so much that happens in a school year, but I have just highlighted a few key things that I would like to talk about today of the work we've been doing. Literacy has been a focus for us this year, starting with our work with the Writing Revolution, which began in the summer when I first started. We had a team of kindergarten through 8th grade turnkey teachers learning the Hockman method. It's a direct, explicit instruction method of writing, teaching our teachers how to support all learners at all levels, how to be strong writers, through a series of steps, a scope and sequence that leads them to creating those really fine paragraphs and those really fine reports and essays, and helping them develop the skills that they need to tackle that rigor up at the high school when they're ready. We are also updating our DRA assessment training, K-6. So we're looking at the DRA assessment to help our students help our teachers identify our students' reading behaviors and design instruction like guided reading specifically for small groups of students. And writing is also a focus in our content areas. Right now we have a group of science teachers, 7 through 12, taking a professional learning opportunity during our professional learning each month with Fred Endy, who's a science writing consultant. So for the unique needs of science, our 7th through 12th grade teachers meet together, and that's teachers from all areas of the science department coming together to talk about writing, looking at the writing continuum for those grade levels as they move up through the grade, and of course, at that top to that IB science level. We know that any initiative cannot be successful without sustained, ongoing, high-quality professional learning. So professional learning is a focus for us. I'm so fortunate to be part of a district that has professional learning hours built into our schedule. Every month, our teachers spend an additional hour after their workday with us to learn and to grow together, to meet as departments, to take workshops with us, to lead workshops with us. I've had the good fortune of co-leading a workshop on the question formulation technique for the high school and middle school teachers with Adele Foster. I've had the opportunity to bring Kristen Iorizzo and Chrissy Phillips to the high school to talk about what writing revolution is and teach them, give them an overview of it, not only building that bridge between the youngest students and the oldest students, the teachers of those groups, but also giving them a few strategies along the way and helping to communicate, once again, talking about that communication piece, helping to communicate what's going on in the district when buildings can sometimes feel like their own little worlds. Our targeted training opportunities in writing, I've spoken about, but we also have Science 21 pilot for grade 5 our teachers are participating in. This is a regional opportunity where our teachers are helping to design the Science 21 curriculum for the region by participating in a pilot. So our teachers are leading regionally too. I spoke about the question formulation technique, and questioning is so critical to the IB work. And to build those skills for our teachers, we have ongoing international baccalaureate training. We also have leadership learning. Our leaders are part of leadership learning every month. We have different administrative meetings focused on different themes. We also have our leaders participating in regional workshops, forums, and continued sustained learning for themselves. And we are leading regionally. This is Ms. Furlong, our art teacher. She had a proposal into the Curriculum Center Conference in the month of December that was accepted. So she presented regionally for the entire Lower Hudson Valley on our visual arts and social emotional learning. I want to thank Ms. Furlong for taking that step, taking that risk, and being a leader regionally, keeping Putnam Valley as the instructional leadership that we know it to be. Of course, we know that learning can't really happen for adults or children if they are struggling with social, emotional, and mental health. So that has been a focus for us this year especially. We've continued our training in the therapeutic crisis intervention for schools. That's Dan Turner and Christina Casey, two more of our great teacher leaders, leading a workshop this summer, and they continue to do that, and they continue to receive training themselves. They are certified in this, and they continue to receive that training so that they can continue to bring it back to our schools. We have a K-8 team right now going to a program in BOCES, virtually right now, not physically, but for our multi-tiered systems of support. All of the systems, all the pieces of the system that we have to support our students, and forming a team, K-8, so that they can come back, come over the summer, plan to implement a full district-wide system for those students. And of course, we can't forget about our teachers. At our Superintendent Conference Day this fall, we held a wellness expo for them, inviting community partners and businesses to show teachers the different resources they have available to them locally so that they can continue to support their own health and wellness, which is very important to us. We have had so many events this year, starting in the summer with our student enrichment opportunities. That's a group of middle school and high school students in an art class and art enrichment. We've had our Superintendent Conference Days both in August and November. We have one coming up this March. Our new teacher orientation is such a wonderful time to onboard new teachers to our district, welcome them, help them get to know the district, introduce them to all of the leaders they'll encounter, introduce them to their mentors and their union leadership, make sure they really get off on the right foot. They even took a bus ride with Sam Oliverio, and I got to join, hi Sam, I got to join that wonderful bus ride and learn all about the Putnam Valley community. The new teacher orientation is really a wonderful opportunity. We've had superintendent listening hours. It's so important for us to hear from the members of our community. So we've invited members in for multiple superintendent listening hours so that we could have conversations with our parents and our families. And we had our DEI parent work group this summer, where our families got together, sat down, and talked about our priorities for that work. I mentioned communication before, and this has been a big part of the communication piece. We have a newsletter issued monthly. It's really wonderful. It's on the website too. You can click and you can see the link there. It is the opportunity we have to share what's going on in our buildings, in our district, share wonderful news like that of Joe Torres, share the different board members we have and information about them, share PTA news, share PBEF news, and it's really come together nicely. Dr. Luft writes a wonderful message every month. I prompt him for it sometimes, but that's okay.
Was that your way of reminding me I owe you a February message?
I like to stay on track. February 15th, I hope it can be issued again. And all this is to say that the joy of connection and a sense of normalcy sparks our renewed hope for the future and what lies ahead. And we are learning. Like this woman on this bridge, we are going forward. It's a little wobbly. We're not really sure what's behind those trees, but we are learning and we're going forward. This is a new year, and we have new hope. Students are our hope for the future, and education is their hope for them to have pathways to success and endless opportunities. So we're going to continue to give them the skills they need and continue to grow our program and continue to be the best we can be in multiple areas to be able to provide those skills for them. We're going to continue our focus on literacy. We're going to develop a foundations facilitator. One of our own teachers in our classrooms is going to be so highly skilled in foundations that she'll be able to turnkey it to a number of different teachers and new teachers who join us and leave replacements who join us so that we don't miss a moment for our youngest students for their phonics and their reading comprehension. And that person will help to keep our teachers with fidelity to the Foundations program. And with that training comes coaching for all of our teachers to be able to support all of them in maintaining that fidelity to Foundations for that critical learning that we know is so important. Those DRA assessments will be given in the middle school once they've received all the training we're giving them this spring and summer. So our middle school teachers in 5th grade and 6th grade will know their students well as readers and be able to support them with targeted instruction. We'll have our guided reading training so that our 5th grade teachers can begin piloting guided reading in their classrooms. Writing Revolution will move beyond the turnkey teachers, and they will have turnkey to their colleagues, and their colleagues will begin implementing Writing Revolution methods in their work. We will continue to focus on writing in the content areas because we know how important that is. All areas, all content areas have writing in them. How do we make ours better? We look forward to a Spring Literacy Academy, hopefully in March, to help our cuspy readers advance, give them that little extra, that little push they need to be able to tackle books at their instructional level. And we look forward to an E&L Academy, an opportunity to bring our parents and our students into the buildings, provide lessons in English language, provide support for parents on how they can support their children at home, and we're looking forward to that in April. We are expanding our Mandarin program. We will be hiring a full-time Mandarin teacher, which will replace our OU BOCES streamed teaching at this time. Right now we have Skype a teacher into the classroom, and there's a teaching assistant in the room supporting the students. This will replace that model and allow us to expand into the high school. We will also be adding grade 3 to the current enrichment happening in the elementary school. We are so excited to be able to provide more family engagement opportunities. It will be so nice to have our families back in our buildings, meeting with us, talking with us, having potlucks, sharing great ideas, and working together to build community for our children. Our DEI committee work is continuing. Right now we're working on revising for a second reading of our policy to the board and deciding upon our goals for the year. This summer, we will have many teams of teachers engaged in curriculum writing and training in literacy, IB, K-8 MTSS, that's that multi-tiered systems of support that I was talking about earlier, and even computer science. One really exciting future possibility is examining whether the middle years program is the right fit for our middle school here. You were speaking earlier about what is the connection for the middle school and the high school and how can we support IB and build that foundation. Well, we're looking into that now, and we're working with a feasibility team and meeting with partner schools around the region to be able to do that. We went to a training recently. I went with Matt Mello and Letitia Payne to be able to go and learn together and see if the middle years program matches our vision, our identity as a school district and as a middle school. We presented to the middle school faculty a couple of times on different aspects of IB. Our middle school will really dig deep with Superintendent Conference Day in March to talk about their foundational beliefs and our educational values. But teacher input is going to be critical to our path forward for whether or not MYP is the right fit for our middle school. And that leads us to all the ways that we are going to thrive as we go forward into the next year. We will support the whole child through our social emotional learning and mental health focus. That is going to be a top priority for us. We want to stay on the cutting edge of our innovative and research-based learning practices. That means making sure our teachers have the latest, newest information, latest, newest materials to be able to do exactly what we're learning all about the brain and learning science, whether it's the science of reading or whether it's coding. What are we giving our teachers to be able to do their best work, and how are we empowering them to lead? Teacher leadership and building that capacity is going to help us get there. And of course, we will work K-12 to align our curriculum. We're already doing it now. Something I'm really excited about next year is a grant-supported pre-kindergarten pilot with one of our community's resources. We will be applying for the New York State grant to be able to provide a pre-kindergarten class that is Putnam Valley students, and we're hoping that that expands into more classes as the years go on. We'll be offering parent workshops, helping parents talk about social media with their children, help their children read more to their children at night, write with their children, maybe even explore coding. Our Innovation Academy, we learned a lot about tech over the past 2 years. We know so much now, but there's still so much to learn, and as we know, technology is changing every day. So let's reunite that Innovation Academy 2.0 and get our teachers learning in technology. And for full transparency with our community about what we do in our classrooms and how our scopes and sequences unfold, Curriculum and Instruction is going to have a webpage on our website where parents can go and see what we're doing in our classrooms. And this just leads us to think about what could be. And I'm just going to say right now that is not actually a Putnam Valley dog. I don't think it's Dan Turner's dog. I believe it's a canine from the canine units that visited us recently. But increased computer science opportunities. Wouldn't it be amazing if K-12 computer science looked like our K-12 Mandarin plan, where we're building that foundation in the elementary school and helping it rise through the middle and high school, so that when they get to high school, they're ready and excited and know even more as they enter into IB computer science. Expansion of IB offerings in the district. If the middle school does adopt the MYP, there's no telling what else could come. Maybe universal pre-kindergarten right here on our own campus, so that our pre-kindergarten children are coming here and attending school with us for all families. And maybe a facility dog to support our social-emotional and mental health. That's definitely something near and dear to my heart. Those of you who know me, you know I have 3 dogs at home. I love them dearly. A lot of us are dog people, and we know research is showing the benefits of a facility dog for our neediest students, our students in crisis, our students who need therapeutic support, our special education students. We know how powerful it can be. So something we can look into down the road. Some of the things that we will leave behind include the Panorama contract. We need less surveys with our community and more conversations. So let's start having those. We don't need the Panorama contract to let us connect with our community. We're going to provide Mandarin internally. That's going to allow us to step out of that contract with OU BOCES and expand our offerings of Mandarin. And literacy consistency across the board, K-12, will allow us to streamline our practices, thus needing less of the pulled resources and needing additional supplemental materials in order to teach our children. And that's all to say we have unlimited hope. And to be honest, normal is not our benchmark. We are there. We are at normal. We're looking at the start of a path to innovation and unity in our curriculum as well as our community. And I didn't mean that to rhyme when I wrote it the first time. It just happened to happen. A colleague once said to me, "Don't prepare the path for the child. Prepare the child for the path." And that's what we do here in Putnam Valley every day. That's what you saw my colleagues from the high school do. That's what they shared. It is what we do here in Putnam Valley. We help our students navigate whatever path, the many paths they will be able to have as they grow. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question on the Mandarin. Could you talk a little bit more about the change of the model?
So, yes, absolutely. We're looking to hire a Mandarin teacher to be part of our full-time faculty. Right now, we have a contract with P&W BOCES that provides a teaching assistant in the elementary schools. And that person really just comes in for enrichment courses for each of the grade levels K2. However, at our middle school right now, we have that TA go over to the middle school and be part of a classroom, be the physical presence in a classroom that has a virtual teacher coming in through Zoom or Skype. And what we would be able to do then is have our own teacher on site to not only teach Mandarin in the middle school, but as those students go up into the high school, expand Mandarin into the high school and provide Mandarin ongoing for them. And we will still maintain that P&W contract for a teaching assistant in the elementary school to provide enrichment. But by having our own full-time Mandarin faculty member, we will be able to continue Mandarin for all students who wish to take Mandarin into the high school. And at the IB level, I believe IB does not permit a course that is virtually taught. You have to have someone on faculty.
Right. So for several years, we've partnered with Orange Ulster BOCES to provide a remote Mandarin teacher for grades 7, 8. Now they're up in the high school, 9, 10, 11. But it's, as we've learned throughout the pandemic, remote instruction is certainly not the most ideal model. There are limitations regarding certifications and their ability to teach IB courses. So some students who make a commitment to IB in 7th grade continue in 8th grade into 9th find themselves unable to continue that same progression into 11th and 12th grade because it's not a recognized IB course. So by bringing our own staff member in, we're now providing the type of in-person instruction that we know benefits students. We're providing opportunities for IB to continue through 11th and 12th grade, so we're not forcing students to pick up a new language their junior year. And we're reducing the expenses that we're currently incurring with Orange Ulster BOCES Consulting, as well as a portion of our contract with Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES in providing a teaching assistant to physically be in the middle school classes.
But I'm imagining this is essentially limited to one section of each level or grade, because if there's only one teacher, depending on class size, it could be a problem, right?
Right. So, I mean, that's based on our need. We have students complete a survey in the beginning of the year. If we see an increase in the need, then we would look at additional offerings or additional ways, right? Students are taking a world language one way or the other. So if we start seeing it transitioning away from Spanish and towards Mandarin, we would have to adjust to meet the needs of the students as well. It wouldn't necessarily be a net increase, or at least not a substantial one, because you still have the same number of students and they can only take one language. So it would really just be deciding who was taking which.
So really nice, and I love the pictures of the students. The writing revolution, I'm really interested in seeing student work. I'd love to see like how they progress and have the teachers talk to us about that program and how excited they are. It's not that your obvious enthusiasm comes through, but I want to bring it down to the work of students. So I mean, later in the year, you know, like I don't know what's the best format, but I'd really like, we've asked for a couple of years, the board has wanted to see a progression of student work. It doesn't have to be 12 grades, it can be 1, 3, 5, 9, you know, I don't know, something, but we'd like to see how our students are developing as writers, their actual writing, what we expect. So.
That sounds wonderful, and I'll work with Dr. Luft and our teachers to see what we can arrange.
So when we added full day, so now we're talking about pre-K, one section of pre-K? I don't understand.
So New York State, it's really a grant-funded opportunity. So based upon the grant funds, we would run the number of sections we could run, whether it be 1 or 2 is really what the conversation is. We would look to partner with a community organization. So we'd be partnering with an existing provider in town and really working closely with them, whether they host it on their facility or we host it here. It would really be driven by a community partner that would work in partnership with the school district. And this would be something that we would look to cover exclusively with the grant funds that are available from New York State. And it'd be based on interest, and it'd be based on impact. Right? We certainly don't want to have a negative impact on the local providers, so that was the last thing that we want. Really, the hope is, right, we want to gain access to students who are not otherwise attending pre-K programs, because that'll be a huge jump start for them coming into kindergarten. But this is just a pilot year. It's grant funded, and we really want to see how it works out.
Great.
So there'll be an application process that'll go out as the time approaches.
Mrs. Yetter, did you have anything you wanted to ask? We don't want to ignore you.
I have a question if you hear me.
Okay.
Jackie, you mentioned a lot of great programs and activities, and it seems like you focus at the middle school. My concern is, or my comment is, we're coming out of such challenging couple of years that, are you thinking of staggering these activities? Because I would hate to throw a lot of activities at these teachers and students after our challenges we've been facing.
So thank you for that question. I think this is a wonderful time for change or for innovation. We are able to think differently. We've been forced to think differently about education for the last couple of years. And now, as we return to our classrooms, return to what we knew to be normal, now we can think about what can be new and what can be different and what can be better. So one thing that I would say, just for our teachers and for our board to know, is if we are to adopt something like the MYP, that would be our teachers' focus. However, that doesn't mean we ignore good instructional practice, as Dr. Seppi and Mr. Mello were sharing before, because that is what something like IB is. It's good teaching. And so the things we'd be teaching our teachers, from guided reading to how to use DRAs, they are all part of good teaching. So we would 100% focus on the MYP while making sure our teachers are receiving regular instruction, regular professional learning, and everything that they need.
So I couldn't agree more. A couple of years ago, we spent a lot of time talking about the need to overcome obstacles and challenges in order for real growth to occur. And if there's one positive of this pandemic that we're hopefully coming out of, is that everyone was forced to change, right? Everyone faced tremendous obstacles. And I think on the backside of this, we're going to see a tremendous opportunity for growth. So I think despite all of the efforts of our teachers over the last couple of years, that they're really primed because they've been forced out of their norm. And before we settle back into a new norm, now's the time to introduce any change. But I think the caveat to that, and something that we have to remain committed to as a district, is it has to be an in with the new, out with the old policy. And it cannot be a piling on of new initiatives without taking things off of their plates. So I know our teachers are already overwhelmed, so certainly it is not our intention to give them more, but to really work in partnership with them to decide how do we best move forward, what's working, and we'll commit to that. And whatever's not working, we have to be willing to let go.
Jackie, I have a question. Can you clarify for me, are all of the hours in the professional learning that takes place after school, are they used for what the state requires from teachers within that 5-year period?
Oh, I think you mean the CTLE, those 100 hours they need for their certification.
Right.
They can be applied to that. We certainly don't cover all of them. Our professional learning hours are 1 hour a month, so approximately 10 hours. But our teachers are taking a lot of professional learning outside of the organization and with organizations we trust. So they are receiving their hours and getting their certification, maintaining their certification.
Thank you.
Jackie, I got a couple IB questions, even though I don't want to talk about IB anymore. The middle years program, are there middle years program districts in our 18 district area, the Putnam area, and can you share where they are in relation to us as far as forming?
So there aren't Putnam districts that I'm familiar with. However, we have several districts in the lower Hudson Valley that are part of IB. As a matter of fact, we've met with 2 of them today. Mount Pleasant is one, and Pelham is another. And we will be meeting soon with Somers and Harrison. And we have a few other districts we're looking into meeting with. Dobbs Ferry is one of them. To your first question, there are several districts in our region, I should say, that are engaged in MYP, and they are very high achieving districts. I can't cite their statistics right now or their test scores right now, but they are very high achieving districts.
But they've been, how far along are they as far as timeline?
Oh, in their process?
Yeah.
So it depends on the district. I think Harrison has had about 12 years of implementation and is currently looking to implement PYP. Dobbs Ferry, I think, is in maybe their 7th year. Dr. Seppi might actually know that offhand, but year 5. Westlake is in, I believe, year 3 of MYP implementation, or year 4. Maybe last year was year 3. And Pelham, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago that Pelham began their journey. Somers, I think, is very new. I think it's maybe year 3 for Somers.
So building on that, you had mentioned that how do we know if that's the path that, or the identity that our middle school wants to endeavor to undertake, and the middle school buy-in, because it's a program that's kind of philosophy-based, and middle school being what it is, always a challenge, even in the best of times, and the idea of, kind of teachers and a building takes on a culture of the students that they kind of take care of, and middle school being, again, what it is. How do you engage and understand when middle school buy-in is there, and if it's a path to go down or not?
It's a good question. I think that where we need to begin is our mission, vision, and core values, and our identity as a school district, but also mostly as a middle school, and comparing that to the IB learner profile, the approaches to learning, what we learn from our colleagues around the region about what they're doing and their journeys. So it's going to take some time, some fact finding, some comparing, but really it comes down to what is our philosophy of learning here in Putnam Valley, and does that match up with what the middle years program offers? And I think that what does teacher buy-in look like? Excitement, inspiration, eagerness to get going. I think that's what it's going to look like. But I don't know. I have a feasibility team and a wonderful team at the middle school leadership that I'm working with right now, and I'm just always so awed and inspired by all of them. I really enjoyed my time working with the middle school because they already are talking about it. I had a post-observation just the other day with a teacher where she was talking about how she's trying to apply the inquiry piece to her social studies class so that she can help her colleagues and build that foundation for her students now to help her colleagues later on at the high school. So it's there. Teachers are excited about it in some small ways, and now is the time for their learning because they can't make an informed decision unless we give them as much as we know, from sending them to professional learning to sending them to partner schools to talk to other teachers who are doing it. So it's going to take some time to find out if there is all that buy-in, but I think the inspired, excited eagerness is what we're going to be looking for.
And I'm not trying to nail down a time frame, but how do you know when that is? Like, if it is something that we have interest in, and and ultimately this really comes down to a sales pitch of sorts from a board that's enthusiastic about the philosophy, obviously a high school that's enthusiastic about the philosophy, that teachers understand that's kind of some of the thinking on a natural next step. How do you know what that time frame is, and whether it's okay that we're going to go down that road or we're not going to go down that road?
It's a great question. Oh, go ahead.
So I'm happy to share my timeline. I mean, the planning of this has obviously been discussed for a long time, and my time is really this year, right? This is our feasibility year. I think Jackie did an excellent job of explaining there's two things that are happening simultaneously. We're giving our staff, middle school staff, bits and pieces of information about the middle years program so they could learn a little bit about it. At the same time, we're starting on the opposite end and really building our own foundation. What are our values? What's our identity? What do we believe in? What's our philosophy? And now that they know a little bit about this and we sort of learned a little bit about ourselves, then the conversation is, well, do these two things mesh together, right? Do our principles match the principles of the middle years program? Does our philosophy match this philosophy? And that decision has to be made at the end of the year, right? So we're going to continue to work through this all spring as they're going to continue to learn more. We're going to continue to look more inside ourselves and see what we think. And ultimately, that decision is going to be reached by the end of the year. If that's the case, then we're going to start working on what's really probably a 3-year minimum phase-in period in terms of the application process and the training. There's a ton of curriculum work and revision that needs to happen before you receive that they come and visit your school and they make sure that you are actually living up to the expectations of being a middle years program. That's likely 3 years down the road if we decide to move that way. If we reach the conclusion, listen, our philosophy just doesn't match the philosophy of IB, that work still needs to happen, right? We just have to explore other things that now meet what our sort of core philosophy is. Maybe it's a district-wide, a building-wide adoption of LADI, or maybe it's a commitment to project-based learning, or whatever those other things are going to be. I'm not settling for anything that's less than sort of a building-wide initiative. Like, what's the universal identity of the middle school? What's the one thing in the middle school that every teacher is going to get behind and move our kids? Because like we've seen happen at the high school, that will impact every student in every class, and we'll get better at teaching, they'll get better at learning, and everyone will ultimately benefit from when that shift is. So middle years program's the first thing we're throwing out there. It's not a guarantee to happen, but if that doesn't happen, there will be something, right? There will be a change in that building that will unify it and get everyone moving in one direction.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
So before you walk away, I just got a couple. I can embarrass you real quick. So first of all, I just want to give another round of applause for Jackie. This was her first public presentation. I won't say that she was nervous, but I caught her mumbling to herself, practicing her speech while sitting in my office. It's actually a humbling experience for me. For anyone who knows my history here in Putnam Valley, I think 5 years ago I was hired to do the same job that Jackie's doing now. And after watching her presentation and considering the fact 6 months ago she was introducing herself and trying to learn people's names, I feel a little bad about myself because I definitely did not accomplish all of the things she has accomplished in the last 8 months total, 6 months with our teachers. And I do want to recognize Jackie for what I think was evident throughout her presentation, her passion, her dedication, her constant optimism, as she keeps telling me, and a commitment to our schools, our students, our staff, and our community. So thank you, and it's been a privilege working with you.